Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is me, Viktor Dmitrievich Khuliganov, coming to you with a slightly different thing. It's not one of the lessons, because it's not scheduled into my didactic pedagogical program, but it is an answer to a request for some help, which I received from one of my viewers. Very kind comment from a viewer called Blue Clue 57, given to me like this. Basically, this was the letter which I received. Thank you for your series of Russian language lessons. I also enjoyed your Valentine's Day tribute, but was somewhat dismayed that you have not taken that opportunity to explain what the word friend translates to in Russian. This is one area that amplifies how vanilla the English language has become. Okay, we can talk about that in a minute. While you do not fully understand the Russian, I am aware that there are distinguishing levels of friend. In English there is boyfriend and girlfriend, both sweetheart and girlfriend, the business acquaintance and neighbor friend, the college friend we have not seen in 10 years, and the co-worker friend that has been by our side for many professional years. They are all friends and friends of friends. You have given us the lesson on Russian diminutive names. March the 8th approaches. Please give us a lesson on what a friend really means. Well, a lesson on what a friend really means I can probably give. Okay, although this is my first inclination was to write back to Blue Clue 57 and say I'm only 42 years of age. Perhaps I don't even know yet what a friend really is, although I think I do. So I will give a lesson on the question of friendship and enmity. Let us start with the thing here where it says an area that amplifies how vanilla the English language has become. Now obviously it's perhaps a little bit unfair to say that English is bad because it doesn't have many words for friend. There are obviously many words for friend in English, but friend itself has become very flexible, and a lot of context is needed to know exactly what the word friend means. In other respects, English can be in some ways much more precise in some areas than Russian. For example, in the word house and home. In English we have these two words. Your house may not necessarily be your home. You might not consider it a homely place, or you may have several houses and only one of them you really feel at home in. So there is a difference between a house, which is a non-emotive word, and home, which is an emotive word. In Russian you only have dom, and he is at home is on doma, and he is going home, on idiot, домой. And it's the same word as dom, which is the word for a house. And so the Russian doesn't really understand what the difference is. Yeah, when they see, for example, an Englishman's home is his castle, it's translated into Russian dom англичанина его замок. Yeah, the house of an Englishman is his castle. And the Russians say, well, he need to make his mind up. What is it? Is it a house or a castle? He's a little bit confused, this English. And in another case, for example, you have on many advertisements in the United Kingdom, probably in America is a little bit different wording, but if you buy a financial product in the United Kingdom, then there is a certain standard of wording which has to be given to the buyer, to the consumer, and it is on all the television adverts for mortgage companies, for loans, for anything like that. It says, your home is at risk if you do not keep up payments on your mortgage or other loan secured on it. In the Russian, reading this in translation, will say, this is not true, they are lying to us, my home is not at risk, they will take very good care of it, it's just I won't be allowed to live in it if I don't keep up repayments on my mortgage or other loans secured on it. So they're not telling us the strict truth, these financial people. But of course, they wouldn't, would they? So, after all, I could get into a big rant about the whole business of endowment mortgages and also the ways that nobody checks in the United Kingdom anymore about the earnings that you put on the form when you want to find out how much you can borrow. Some people writing 10 times what their salary really is, and no banks ever checking it. Yeah? I saw a panorama program. You are all completely scamming everybody. Yeah? It is a shock. You should be ashamed. If you are a mortgage consultant in the United Kingdom, I hope you are ashamed of yourselves. Terrible. You should give back all your commissions. Okay, enough ranting. I'm not about ranting. I'm about friendship and enmity. And so, basically, I wrote an email back and tried to be more precise about what it was that Blue Clue 57 wanted, and Blue Clue 57 said, most importantly, what words do I use when I explain to my Russian fiancée about my various friends? How do I explain without her imagining the worst? Okay, and I said, okay, I can do it probably earlier than the 8th of March. It's an interesting topic. Now that I come across it, I immediately start to think how to make this video, and I don't really even want to wait for 8th of March to do this. So basically, let's start off with the enemies. It says, keep your friends close, but keep your enemies even closer. Yes? One of the interesting things is that we are taught to love our enemies. Obviously in the Gospel is written, love your enemies. In one Russian book, in fact, called The Hero of Our Times, the character says very famously, «Я люблю врагов, но не по-христианскому». I love my enemies, but not in the Christian way. That basically means he loves having them and beating them. Yeah, that is more the Russian way. Враг is an enemy. Враги are enemies, and inimically the adverb from it would be враждебно. You will notice that the word враг is similar to the word врач, which means a doctor. I don't know who treats you the worst out of a doctor and your enemy, but I think that you need to be a little bit careful with both of them. So, now let's go to the basic word. There are not a lot of shades of meaning of enemy. Either a person is your enemy or they are not your enemy. Somebody just sent me a text message. And basically, friend. There is in Russian a main word for friend is drug. The plural is друзья. And the adverb form from this is дружно. There is a cartoon character called Kot Leopold, and his catchphrase is «Давайте жить дружно», which means let us live in friendly way. Друг is a word which is also in Russian quite broad in meaning. It is really the default word for friend. I would like to perhaps take away from Russian for a moment and look at the Polish language. The word for friend in Polish is przyjaciel, but you will only reserve this for only a very small, tiny handful of people. It is not a word you will throw around much. In Russian too, it is more reserved for specialer people than the word friend in English, but not to the degree of sanctity that this word has in Polish. So it is a medium reserved word for friend. More special maybe than the way it is used in English, not quite as special as the use of that word in Polish. So, but you can say, for example, people will come onto the television and say «Дорогие друзья», as I do to people they've never even met. Okay, this is quite standard in Russian. But if you are talking to your fiancé and you say «Мой друг said this or this», «My friend said this or this», and use «Мой друг», then of course what she might think is that you are talking about your special friend. And in Russian, the word drug is often used by men to refer to a special friend that men tend to have in Russian society, where it is often somebody that they have known from school or even a lot longer, their best friend. And I'm afraid to tell you that in Russian society, men do maintain their friendships long after marriage, and the druk is likely to have a lot of knowledge about the gentleman that his wife doesn't know even, and there are certain things that you wouldn't tell your wife, but you will tell your druk. Okay, it is a little bit the way that Russian men tend to be, and so everybody is supposed to have like a druk, and you will certainly be expecting to go out and have Russian fun with your druk, and to have basically confidences with your druk, which perhaps your wife might prefer you had with her. And when you say mój druk, and you're referring it in context, this particular one, you would call this your bosom buddy, maybe in English. Okay. Instead of saying один из моих друзей, one of my friends, okay, which can be much more, not special. Коллеги, colleagues at work, you can say. If you want to say just an acquaintance, then you would say знакомый. Знакомые in the plural, my acquaintances, мои знакомые. Моя знакомая would be a lady who I am just acquainted with. Yes? So it is not implying any form of friendship at all. And if you are talking about a person of the opposite sex, this is where it starts to get a little bit more interesting. Now, of course, the word friend in English begins as a Viking word, which comes from Old Norse, from the verb at fria in Old Norse, which means basically to make love to somebody. Yeah, it is a sexual word. So friend is the original word. It means somebody who is making love with you. Yeah? So basically the origins of the word friend are the same as the origins of the word Friday. It all has to do with this root of to love in a sexual manner, and the god Freya or Freya, which is the goddess rather who Friday is named for, was basically the equivalent of Venus in the classical religions, and you will find it no mistake that the same day of the week is named for Freya in the Norse culture, and is Dies Veneris, the day of Venus, or Vendredi, or Venerdi, depending on which romantic language you want to speak. It's the same for Friday. Yes, it is the day in which, because Venus as well is the goddess of sexual love. We all know what it means to have a venereal disease. I mean, at least in theory. In my case, I only know in theory, I promise, but some of you viewers, maybe you know in practice what it is to have a venereal disease. I have no idea. I'm not going to judge you for it if you had it. Don't necessarily have to put in the comment section whether you had one or not. I'm not asking. Okay? But anyway, you know what it is. It is a sexual disease. So initially the word friend comes from somebody who is loving you in a sexual way, but over time it became simply somebody who likes you, that you like them, not somebody that you're going to hop into bed with. Okay, the Viking era came and went, and people start to behave in a more civilized manner towards each other. Okay, and still the root, the word exists. So the same, of course, in the Latin roots. Yeah? Eme from amar or amare in Latin means to love. Yeah? And it is the basis of the word friend. Ami in French is basically from the word to love. And so there's no big surprise there. Yeah? If you want to say a lover in Russian, well, then you can say любовник and любовница, and it has the root from любовь, love, and любить, to love. But if you want to use the term for somebody that you are engaged in the friendship in a sexual way, then usually the term любовник is not the first term that will spring to mind. If you simply want to say this is my girlfriend and you are a man, then you will use the term подруга. If a Russian man says "это моя подруга," he's saying, this is my girlfriend, I'm her special boy, but probably, he's not yet saying he's her fiancé, because then he will use other words I'm saying in a minute. So he's saying "Это моя подруга," and she will say "Это мой друг." If she, being a lady, is talking about other of her friends, then подруга for her just means another lady friend. Doesn't mean to say she's a lesbian or anything like that. Okay? The same as "Это мой друг" doesn't mean to say he's a homosexual. Okay? Because, I mean, in Russia there probably isn't very much of that going on. You know, sometimes in show business they do it, but it's just to kind of make, you know, a splash. They're not really, you know, doing that at all in Russia. It is for the West, these things, not anything to do with Russia. So basically the term подруга means my girlfriend, and usually these terms are implying girlfriend, not just a friend who is female, because Russian men, they will not have the idea that you could be simply platonic friends with a girl. If you know you have a girlfriend, if you are treating a girl as your friend, genuinely this means that you're basically, you know, you're going to sleep with her, because, you know, for a Russian man, they're not really in most cases going to, they will consider it a big like loser if somebody is actually friend with a girl and is not really doing things with her, you know. That is not part of the way the Russian man's psychology is usually working. If, however, there is some exception to this rule, and he wants to say "Это моя подруга," and he wants to say is a platonic friendship, then of course he can say "моя платоническая подруга." The word is the same as in English, platonic, платонический. This has come from the Plato, the philosopher, who spent his time not having sex because he had too much philosophies to talk about. So, basically, if you are already a lady with the engaged to be married, you will call the man "мой жених," which is my fiancé. It is also the word for the bridegroom. So in the religious texts where you hear about Christ being called the bridegroom and the church the bride, then they're also using these terms, which in modern Russian are for fiancés. That is the жених for Christ, and the невеста is the church, the fiancé. And of course afterwards, after they are married, then you have муж and жена, and you say that the wife goes out after the husband. Так, you say выходить замуж, going out after the husband. It means to get married. And for a man to marry is жениться. So it's a different word for a man to get married and for a woman to get married, which underlies the fact that, of course, the experience of being married for a man and for a woman may be different, for all we know. Because I don't know that many people who've been both a man and a woman in one lifetime and got married in both cases. And so, you know, it would be interesting, would it not, if you had a husband and a wife and they both decide to get divorced, then have a sex change and then get married again, but this time the one that was the wife last time is now the husband because they both got sex changes in the middle. It would be an interesting text for a novel to do this, but I don't advise actually doing it in practice. It is going to be fraught with difficulties, not least legal ones. Okay, you might not actually be allowed to do this. So, you know, not just for fun anyway. You might have to pretend to be like sick in the head and then they'll let you do it, but you know, you really have to nag and pay a lot of money. So don't think about really do it. I wasn't advising any of my viewers to try that trick, okay? I'm not going to do it myself, okay? I promise you. Anyway, these basically are the words for friendship. But of course, Blue Clue 57 said to me, in using his exact words, please give us a lesson on what a friend really means. Well, of course, some people will answer this in different ways. They will say that a friend is somebody that you can always count on. Or they will say that a friend is somebody that you simply know, you understand them just z poluslova, which means from the half word. That is somebody that you simply know what they're thinking. Somebody which you like to spend time with, somebody that you can really be yourself with without fear. These are all ways in which people define their friends. And people sometimes say a friend in need is a friend indeed. And it might be somebody who comes along in need, give them something, disappear and never see them again. Is that really a friend? Well, in the sense of friend in need is a friend indeed. They are, of course, yes. They perform an act of charity, an act of love to the person who is in need, but are they really their friend? Which would they rather have? Just somebody that fish them out of a difficult situation, or somebody that they can really spend their life through, knowing I know everything that is in your life, you know everything that is in my life. There is somebody that actually fulfills all of those definitions. Somebody who knows everything that is in your life. There's nothing which is hidden from him. And he's also somebody that came along and fished you out of a very big difficulty. The difficulty that you were, completely lost in your sins. This is the biggest difficulty that anybody has, believe me. So, and somebody came along and was a friend, and is a friend really with the capital F, or the capital D in Russian, drug. And he says, friendship is like this. Greater love has no man than this, that he lay down his life for his friends. And Jesus Christ did this. He died on the cross for us. He said, I have called you friends. He died on the cross for his friends, for you and me, who believe in him. We are made clean by his blood, which was shed on Calvary, and we are called his friends and able to spend the eternity together with him, enjoying that friendship which he has forged with us. And therefore sometimes Christians are singing a song, What a Friend We Have in Jesus. It is a song which is not only found in the English language, it was originally written in the English language, but is also available in the Russian translation. So to round off this topic of friendship, I can think of no better way to finish than to give the Russian version of this song. And thank you very much and good night.
Что за друга мы имеем, нас он к жизни пробудил. В нем мы счастьем владеем, в нем источник вечных сил. Ах, как часто мы страдали, боль терпя напрасно там, где просить мы забывали, чтоб один помог нам. Изнываем мы под зноем этой жизни суетной. Сердце лишь ему откроем, и он даст душе покой. Если нас, друзья, забыли, скажем Господу о том, и Христос проявит в силе, что Он верный друг во всем.
Правда, он верный друг во всем.